Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with my review of the Kamen Rider Build series premiere, episode 1. So, yes, exciting times. We are starting a new Toku series and a new series review and stuff, and I really enjoyed the first episode of Build. Quite a lot, actually. It's probably one of my more, I feel like I sometimes say this a lot, but it's probably one of my more favorite pilots. Not in general, but for Toku. Toku pilots are always weird, because they don't do usually the 2-episode stuff. Like, you know, we have the 2-episode episodic stories we do, but we don't do like an hour-long premiere or finale like for Toku like we do here in the US and for other things. So, that are, you know, usually a 30-minute program. So it's usually, in most cases, they try to condense everything into a 1-episode wonder. So, in most cases, to varying degrees, Toku pilots are rushed. And this one definitely was a little rushed. And sometimes you can't tell if you're riding that high of excitement if you're ignoring certain things that are more rushed. But while I did feel that there was definitely some rush to it, because they do have a lot to establish, I felt it was one of the lesser rushed ones, just because we do have an established writer in this case, where he's already established his build. And usually with those, it helps it feel a little bit less rushed, because we don't have to get through the writer getting his powers and showing off certain things and introducing us to certain plot elements. So like, of course we have the first transformation, but it doesn't really necessarily take up much more time than any transformation in the beginning of the series. But like, we don't have to get through like Build making the powers or finding the powers or whatever. So he's already established. So it gives it a little bit more of a streamlined quality, and I think this is the first established writer we've had since, I want to say Wizard, because we saw Gaim get his powers, Drive get his powers, Ghost get his powers, and X8 get his powers. And of course we did have some established things in that world that we didn't have to debut right away, that were like snipe and stuff, I guess, in a manner of speaking. I don't know if that's a good example, but you know what I mean. But this is the first established one we've gotten in a while. So I think that's kind of nice. There was some rushed stuff, but because he was there, it didn't feel as weird that we're showing off like bits of the other forms, how things work, the bike, all that stuff. And I found it to be really enjoyable. I think it set up an interesting tone. It set up a lot of interesting questions. You know, we did have, I talked a lot about my X8 series review and X8, like how the sort of Begins Night setup kind of bothered me, because it's like, we've done that, Begins Night, Global Freeze, and we did have that, but it did feel a bit different, because it wasn't about an event where monsters reigned through the world or something. It was about this event that divided the world, and it definitely has that structure, but it's also a bit different, and I'll be interested to see how they keep up the world feeling different, because they're split up into these 3 territories. At the moment, I thought it was pretty solid in the pilot, where there wasn't too much in-depth into the world, but I did feel a bit of a different vibe, like a changed world from this event, and I think that's interesting. So they set up that, they set up basically the entire mystery around the Pandora's box, and they set up the mystery around Night Rogue, well, they keep calling the Batman, which is really funny, because like in the subs it's like, oh, so you've seen the Batman too, and I'm just thinking about like, you know, the way Batman's kind of fabled amongst criminals, especially in his early days, and it's just kind of funny. They set up that mystery for both our main character's identity, because he's got an Agito-esque amnesia, and for Ryuga, is the name Ryuga? The dude from Amazon Season 2, which I have now seen. They set up, it's like the same mystery around both of them, but also is a bit splintered, because there's individual storylines, and how it also ties into the Smash. It is the name of the villain, which is a really weird name for a villain. I'm having a hard time calling it that. But it's also tied to that, because it seemed like the main monster they fought at the end turned back into a human who had also been experimented on. So basically, like, the mystery surrounding Ryuga, if I got his name wrong, but I'm calling him that for this review, and our main guy and the Smash is all interconnected, but also has some splinters in terms of like how they relate to them individually, and like how that relates to Pandora's box. They could be separate, they could be related but separate, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like, one caused the other, but now they're separate things. But I'm freaking out, man. No, but what I was trying to get at was, it set up, what my favorite thing about Rider is in general is the mysteries, is I like having questions about the world. So it set that up nicely. And a lot of the aesthetic stuff I had already gotten an impression on via pictures and trailers and promos, but I do like all the aesthetics. I like the voice for the belt. I like the way they use like the shaking of the bottles and the way that in combat they'll use like the formulas and stuff. I think that stuff's all really neat. It's probably something they'll dial back as it goes, but it reminds me how the way Xaid made use of the video game theme in fights. I thought that was really cool. And some people did say this reminded them of Double, which makes sense. I'm not even talking about the aesthetics, I'm talking about the pilot. Which it makes sense in some ways I can see, but honestly, tone-wise, it actually didn't remind me that much of Double. The only part that really did was the very first fight of Build, because it was like done at night and like he was all kind of glowy in the eyes, very similar to Double's debut fights and Begins Night and stuff like that. And I guess there's some bullet points from Double's plot that's in here, and obviously the way the powers work, but after hearing that and just from the initial reactions, I expected to get more of a Double vibe tone-wise, but I didn't, but maybe that's just me. As far as the characters go, it's kind of hard to get a read on a lot of people. I feel like the biggest read we got was on our main, who I actually like so far. As I mentioned before, I was a little disappointed we're getting much more of a lighter character instead of kind of a more badass protagonist, which we haven't had in a while, but I like him so far, and it's really hard to say based on the first episode, because I could say I like him now but end up hating him as much as M by the end, or I could end up loving him, or somewhere in the middle. But right now he seems okay. He's definitely got a bit of that goofiness, but it seems like he also has this kind of funny wit to him. Like he had a funny joke, kind of a funny joke I thought, when he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna call in sick. Like, no, this is what this phone is. Or there was another funny line that I really liked that he did. I don't know, but like he has a kind of a bit of a wit to him where he can sort of be more serious, and I don't mean that like in dark and serious, but I mean like he's not always coming off as either really naive or inexperienced at fighting, or he's not coming off as too goofy. He seems to have a little bit of a confidence to him, I guess, and there's a bit of a quirkiness that I do like to him that it kind of reminds me of when I talked about when Commander first debuted in Q Ranger, where I'm seeing these elements they're establishing, and it could go one of two ways, where I end up liking it, the quirks that they set up, or I could end up hating it. But as for the pilot, I enjoyed him in the pilot, but I don't want to like establish too many opinions because it can change quick. Like, I was pretty okay with M that I remember, so I don't know. I think that he has potential to be pretty entertaining and good if they don't take things too far and make him too one-note in terms of his way of thinking. I do find it funny, it's something I had mentioned in the premise of like he's an amnesiac, but he still remembers like all his physics knowledge and stuff like that, that like on his resume when he's going out for this job it says like past work, it's like physicist probably. I thought that was pretty funny, and like I want to know, there's a couple things I want to know about him. Like I want to know where the build stuff came from. I know, side note, which is really cool, like which we knew from like the information before this, but you know, he bottles up like the defeated Smash and then converts it into a power bottle, which is very reminiscent for me of actually Blade, the way they use the cards for abilities and transformation. And there's like these little special like rounder bottles when they initially bottles it up. Countdown to when that's on Premium Bandai. But anyway, where was I going? Oh yeah, I want to know where the build stuff came from, because unless I missed it either in the pilot or the pre-information, I want to know whether he made it, somebody else made it, it was a collaborative effort. Did it exist in his pre-amnesia life? Probably not, but I want to know that stuff. I want to know if this is his real name, like if he forgot everything but he somehow knew his name, or if it's a name that somebody came up from him. Also, this is unrelated to almost anything other than the character himself. I found it really amusing that the base behind the cafe, he came out of a little fridge door. I just found that moment hilarious. But yeah, I don't have too much else to say. I think I pretty much covered all my thoughts and sort of questions so far, but I found it to be a really enjoyable pilot, and I'm really excited to get into it. And it helps that I'm kind of in a Toku mood right now, so like in addition to just be excited that we have a new series pilot to watch, I'm just kind of in the mood to watch Toku, so it was extra exciting. But I would give this premiere an 8.5. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm looking forward to seeing more, and hopefully it being able to keep my interest for the entire year. But anyway, that's about it. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's Awesome Writer, signing out.